My dear friend, let me tell you something urgent, something critical. This isn't just a feel-good message. This is your wake-up call. You might think you're stuck, forgotten, overlooked, like the heavens have gone silent, but God is still moving. He hasn't stopped. His hand, mighty, sovereign, and unpredictable, is working behind the curtain, even when you don't see it, even when you don't feel it. I've lived and walked through enough closed doors to understand, just when you think it's over, God opens a new one. And listen, He doesn't need your calendar. He doesn't work off your timeline. He opens doors when you least expect them. Not when you're strong, but sometimes when you're down to nothing, when you're tired, confused, done. But listen to me. Here's the key. Don't focus on what you lack. Don't drown in what's missing. Focus on what God has already given you right now, right here. Because if you can learn to honor the small, God can trust you with the great. Every blessing He pours starts with your heart of gratitude. The door's coming. Get ready. Before we go any deeper, I want to welcome you not just to a video, but to a divine moment. I humbly invite you to do 3 things right now. First, hit that like button. Second, subscribe and stand with this family of faith. Third, drop 777 in the comments below. That's heaven's number. A sign of completion, perfection, and divine alignment. If you feel it, declare it. Let's walk through this door together. Beloved chosen ones, if you've come this far, it means your spirit recognizes something deeper stirring. You already know this message isn't entertainment, it's a lifeline. You've heard about the unpredictable hand of God, and now I need to tell you something just as urgent, just as real. God's timing is never wrong. It is never late, never early, always on time. Not by our clock, but by His perfect design. And just because you can't see His hand moving doesn't mean He's not working. Some of God's greatest miracles happen in the quiet. Some of His most powerful moves unfold in the places where we hear nothing, feel nothing, see nothing, but He's there, behind the scenes, behind the silence, behind the questions and the aching. He's there working in the invisible realm, shaping outcomes before they ever touch the surface of your life. There's a truth I need you to hold on to right now. God's delay is not God's denial. Read that again in your heart. Let it soak into your bones. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't. Some things don't arrive late. They arrive exactly when you're ready to carry them. See, we keep asking for doors to open, but God is asking, can I trust you with what's behind that door? Will it bless you or break you? Will it draw you closer to me or pull you away? This is why the waiting matters. This is why the timing matters. He's not just preparing the opportunity. He's preparing you. He's not just setting up the room. He's setting up your heart, your character, your vision, so that when you walk through that door, you can handle the weight of the blessing and not collapse under it. I know the waiting is hard. I've been there. Prayers that felt like they bounced off the ceiling. Nights that felt longer than they should have. Silence that screamed louder than any answer. But I've also seen what happens when you hold on just a little longer. When you stay planted, when everything in you wants to run, that's when strength is forged. That's when character is built. That's when God takes the unseen and makes it visible. Because while you're waiting, He's working. While you're trusting, He's aligning. While you're enduring, He's perfecting the very thing you asked for. But more importantly, He's perfecting you for it. When the Israelites stood at the edge of the Red Sea, they thought it was the end. Pharaoh's army behind them, the sea before them, and no way out. But God was never late. He said, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. And then He moved. The waters parted. The impossible became a path. That's the God we serve. A God who shows up when it seems like there's no more time. a God who opens what no man can open, a God who creates a way where there was no way. He didn't bring you this far to leave you. He didn't plant those dreams in your heart just to watch them die. He is the finisher of what he starts, and he will finish what he began in you. This is where you learn to trust, not in the timing you want, but in the timing he has planned. It's not easy, but it is necessary. The waiting season is not a wasted season. It's the place where roots grow deeper, where faith becomes real, where your connection with God becomes unshakable. Because if you can trust him when nothing's happening, you'll be able to walk with him when everything starts moving. That's what it's about. Preparation, trust, transformation, not punishment, not abandonment, development. Isaiah said, "Those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles." That's not just a verse, it's a promise. You won't crawl through this. You won't barely survive this. You'll rise, you'll run, you'll walk and not grow weary, but you've got to wait his way. That means with expectation, with worship, with patience, not with complaining, not with doubt, but with faith that says, I don't see it yet, but I know my God is working. I don't feel it yet, but I know he's faithful. I don't understand the delay, but I believe there's purpose in every second of it. So let me say this to the one who's tired, the one who's weary of holding on. Don't give up. Don't lose your faith right before the breakthrough. Don't walk away from the door just before it swings open. He's not done with you. The silence you feel is not a sign that he's gone. It's a sign that he's building, that he's finishing the foundation. And when the time is right, you won't just walk into something new. You'll walk in prepared. You'll walk in strong. You'll walk in knowing this isn't luck, it's divine design. That door you've been praying for is coming. So stay ready, stay faithful. Because God's intervention never comes late. It comes when it's most right. You already know that waiting on God's timing is more than just being patient. It's about being prepared. It's about being refined. But let me tell you something else, just as powerful. Just because a door opens in your life doesn't mean it came from God. Not every opportunity is a blessing. Not every open path is part of your purpose. And this is where so many people get it wrong. They chase the door because it looks good, it feels right, it moves fast. But let me ask you, does it draw you closer to God, or does it make you forget him? See, one of the clearest signs that a door truly comes from the Lord is this. It leads you deeper into his presence. It makes you more dependent on him, not less. It keeps him first. It reminds you every single step that you need him. If the door opens and you find yourself saying, I can't do this unless God goes before me, then friend, that might just be the door he's called you to walk through. But if that door makes you feel like you've got this on your own, if it feeds your pride or makes you drift from your faith, then I want to tell you right now, be careful. Because God will never give you something that causes you to forget who gave it to you in the first place. Let me speak from my own life. The best things God ever gave me were the ones I didn't think I could handle without him. The doors that humbled me, that broke me, that brought me to my knees before they lifted me to new heights. Because that's how God works. He's not interested in promoting your comfort. He's interested in growing your character. And the right door will always bring you to a place where your faith must rise, where you have to pray more, listen more, trust more, surrender more. Hebrews says, without faith, it is impossible to please God. And many times it's the open doors in your life that stretch that faith to its limits. God's not opening that door just to make your life easier. He's opening it to make your faith stronger. He's calling you into something that will challenge your doubt, that will confront your fear, that will press on your weakness, so his strength can be made perfect. The right door is not always easy, but it will always be holy. It will always be sacred, and it will always lead you back to the heart of the Father. So I ask you, what is that door doing to your soul? Does it bring you peace that passes all understanding, or does it stir confusion and pride? Does it pull you into prayer, or does it pull you away from God's word? The right door will never make you think you don't need God. It will never convince you that you earned it all by yourself. In fact, when you're walking through a door that God truly opened, there's often a trembling in your spirit. Not fear, but reverence. A weight that reminds you, this isn't about you, it's about what God is doing through you. Sometimes the greatest door God opens doesn't look glamorous. It doesn't come with applause. It doesn't feed your ego, but it feeds your faith, and that's what matters. That's what lasts. That's the kind of door that will transform your life from the inside out. Because God isn't just trying to get you to a destination. He's trying to get your heart to align with His. And He uses the journey, the stretching, the testing to make that happen. If you're standing in front of a door today and you're wondering whether it's from God, here's the question you need to ask. Will I need Him more on the other side of this or less? Because God's blessing always draws us closer to His presence, not farther from it. He wants to be first in your life, not second, not just on Sundays, not just when things fall apart. First, and He'll never lead you through a door that dethrones Him from that place in your heart. The truth is, when God opens a door, it's not just about where He's taking you. It's about who He's shaping you to become as you walk through it. It's not about platforms. It's about purity. Not about positions. It's about posture. And the posture of your heart matters more than any success you could ever achieve. So hear me now. If you're walking through something that's drawing you back to God, keep going. If the opportunity you're holding makes you pray harder, worship deeper, and walk more humbly, you're in the right place. Because that's what the real doors from God do. They don't just change your circumstances, they change you. They make you more like Jesus. They make you stronger in spirit, bolder in faith, more grounded in grace. This is not just about favor, this is about formation. The right door will open your future, but it will also open your soul. It will teach you to trust. It will strip away your pride. It will break what needs breaking and build what needs building. So don't run from the door that humbles you. Don't avoid the path that makes you depend on Him daily, because that's where your greatest growth lives. And that's where God's presence abides. The right door will always bring you closer to Him. And that alone makes it worth walking through. Now, if you've been paying attention, you already know that the door God opens will never pull you away from Him. It will pull you in closer. And once you understand that truth, once you begin to walk in alignment with His presence, there's something else you need to understand just as deeply, just as urgently. Timing, not yours, His. Because the blessing is not just about the door, it's about when the door opens. And far too often, we try to force it open ourselves. We pray and then try to pry. We believe and then try to build it in our own strength. But the truth is, if you walk through a door on your own timing instead of God's, you may end up in a place He never intended for you to be, because there is a difference, a wholly unshakable difference between your timeline and His divine appointment. You see, one of the greatest battles you'll ever face in this life isn't just waiting, it's how you wait. The temptation to rush, to run ahead, to act before the moment is ripe, that's the struggle. Because we live in a world that celebrates speed. We want it fast, we want it now, and we think that if it's delayed, it's denied. But God's kingdom doesn't run on earthly clocks. It moves according to eternal rhythms. And if you don't learn to trust His pace, you'll miss the beauty of what He's preparing for you in the process. Let me tell you something straight and real. If everything had happened when I wanted it to happen, I would have missed some of the biggest blessings of my life. I would have settled for less, grabbed what was easy, and called it success, when in truth it would have just been a distraction dressed like destiny. But thank God He didn't give it to me when I asked. He gave it to me when I was ready. And sometimes being ready doesn't mean you're equipped. It means you're surrendered. Because what good is walking through the right door? If your heart isn't right, what good is getting the promise if you don't have the maturity to handle it? God's ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts higher than our thoughts. That's what Isaiah said. And it's not just poetic, it's truth. It means we don't always get to understand. We don't always get the map. We walk by faith, not by sight. And that means trusting the one who sees the whole picture, even when we're staring at just one broken frame. You might be crying right now over what didn't happen, but God is holding back that very thing to protect your soul. You might be frustrated that the door hasn't opened, but maybe it's because He's still building what's on the other side. Don't confuse God's silence with His absence. Don't confuse waiting with punishment. God is not punishing you, He's positioning you. When you align your heart with His, something shifts. You stop striving and you start trusting. You stop chasing and you start resting. You no longer need to manipulate your way into rooms because you understand if God ordained it, no man can block it. You begin to see that when He opens the door, it'll be undeniable, unstoppable, and unshakable. And when He does it, it won't be just for your benefit. It'll be for His glory. It'll be a testimony that says, only God could have done this. That's the kind of blessing that lasts. That's the kind of breakthrough that carries weight. But it only comes when your timing surrenders to His. I need you to hear me. When I say this delayed doesn't mean forgotten. Postponed doesn't mean abandoned. God has not overlooked you. He is not ignoring your prayers. He's just working out the kind of miracle that takes time. The kind that develops you in the dark before it brings you into the light. And if you try to skip the process, you will sabotage the very promise you were praying for. Sometimes He doesn't open the door yet, not because He's cruel, but because He loves you too much to hand you something that will crush you. So He waits, and in the waiting, He shapes, He corrects, He deepens. He clears out the noise so you can hear His whisper. You've got to ask yourself, do you want what's fast or do you want what's holy? Do you want what the world can offer now or what God has prepared at the appointed time? Because you can have the right desire but still miss it if you move ahead of God's pace. But when you wait and when you stay aligned with His heart, He will position you to receive more than you ever imagined. Not just enough to satisfy your wants, but enough to overflow into others' lives. So don't be discouraged by the delay, be encouraged by it. Because if it hasn't come yet, that means it's still becoming. And when it arrives, it will be pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Your job is to stay ready, stay faithful, stay obedient. Keep praying, keep praising, keep walking like the door could open at any moment. Because when God moves, it often happens suddenly, but it will never happen randomly. There's no randomness in heaven's design, only divine appointments. So let your heart rest. In this truth, God's timing is perfect. And when your heart is aligned with His, when your spirit is surrendered, when your steps are ordered by His word, you will not miss what He has for you. You will walk into it fully prepared, fully present, and fully aware that it was never your plan that brought it to pass, it was His. And that truth right there, that surrender, is what unlocks the door to abundance beyond your wildest imagination. Now, let me take you somewhere unexpected. Not to a moment of clarity, but to a collision where grace meets a man who wasn't looking for it. Where purpose interrupts a path paved with destruction. You see, God doesn't always knock on the front door. Sometimes He kicks it open right where you're least prepared. And the truth is, the greatest doors in your life might be the ones you never planned to walk through. They show up when you're headed in the wrong direction, mind set, heart closed, and still God steps in. That's what happened on a dusty road to Damascus. A man named Saul wasn't searching for a mission, he was on one of his own. But God had other plans. He wasn't waiting for the door of opportunity, he was on the run from truth. And yet heaven interrupted. That's the kind of door we're talking about. The kind only God can open. The kind that flips the script and calls you into a purpose you didn't even know belonged to you. Saul wasn't just on the wrong path, he was convinced it was the right one. He thought he was doing the will of God by tearing down the very church God was building. He had the letters, he had the authority, he had the passion, but he didn't have the truth. And yet God still came for him, right there on the road to Damascus. Not when Saul was kneeling in worship, not when he was reading scripture with an open heart, but when he was marching with violence in his steps and vengeance in his eyes. That's where the light hit him. That's where Jesus met him. And that's where the door opened. What does that tell you? It tells you that God's mercy doesn't wait for your perfection. It moves on his purpose. It tells you that even when you're on the wrong road, God can still reroute your steps. One moment Saul is traveling to destroy, and in the next he's blinded by glory. That wasn't a door he saw coming. That wasn't a breakthrough he planned for. But it was the beginning of a transformation that would change the world. God took a persecutor and turned him into a preacher. He took a destroyer and turned him into a builder. That's what happens when heaven opens a door. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for your resume. It shows up and says, "This is the moment I've chosen. Walk through it." Now, let's bring that home, because some of you are in a season where you're thinking God has forgotten you. You've been watching everyone else get opportunities while you sit in silence. You've been feeling like your life is passing you by. But I want you to hear me clearly. God has doors for you that haven't even been built yet in your timeline. He has moments that you didn't pray for because you didn't even know to ask. And when they come, they won't make sense to the people around you. They may not even make sense to you. But that's how you'll know it's Him. Because when God opens a door, it will stretch you beyond what you thought you were capable of. The job you never thought you'd qualify for. The relationship that heals parts of you you didn't know were broken. The ministry you didn't plan but can't ignore. The calling that keeps tugging at your spirit even when you try to dismiss it. These are the unexpected opportunities that don't just alter your situation, they awaken your purpose. That's what happened to Paul. After his encounter with Jesus, he didn't just change behavior, he changed identity. He didn't go back to his old ways with a new attitude. He stepped through a door that took him into a whole new life. And sometimes that's how it works for us. God doesn't give you an upgrade to your current story. He gives you a whole new narrative, but you've got to be willing to walk through the door. And here's the thing, it won't always look like a blessing at first. Paul was blinded before he could see. He was led by the hand before he could lead others. His first step into purpose was a step into darkness. But in that darkness, God was working. In that blindness, God was revealing. In that quiet place, the old Saul was dying so the new Paul could rise. Don't reject what's uncomfortable. It may be the very passageway to your calling. Let me tell you something real. Sometimes the opportunity looks like a setback. It looks like confusion. But God is rearranging the furniture of your soul to make room for what He's about to bring in. That interruption you didn't see coming, that sudden shift in your plans, that door that slammed in your face, don't mourn too long. Because if it wasn't God's door, it had to close. But if it is, it will open at the appointed time, and when it does, nothing, no history, no failure, no doubt can keep you from walking through it. That's why you've got to stay open. Stay expectant. Stop telling God how He's allowed to bless you. Stop limiting His provision to what you've seen before. He doesn't recycle plans. He authors them from scratch. He writes chapters you didn't see coming. And if He could use a man like Saul to spread the gospel across nations, to write letters that would still echo through history, what makes you think He can't use you? What makes you think your past disqualifies you when Paul's past was paved with persecution? Grace doesn't just forgive. It appoints, it assigns, it calls out destiny where others saw disgrace. So I need you to believe again. I need you to lift your head and stop watching the clock. Heaven's door doesn't run on your schedule. It opens when you least expect it. When your hands are tired. When your strength is low, that's when God says, now. That's when he flips the script. That's when he says, I've got something better than what you lost. I've got something greater than what you imagined. But it's coming through a door you didn't plan to find. When God opens that door, walk through it with trembling if you have to. Walk through it, even if your knees are shaking. You're not called to understand every step. You're called to trust the one who guides them. That opportunity might not look like what you prayed for, but it may be exactly what you were created for. Paul didn't see it coming, but he answered, and that one answer became a legacy. The same can happen for you. But only if you're willing to say yes to the unexpected. Only if you stop waiting for perfect conditions and start listening for divine instructions. God's not done writing your story. He's just getting to the best part. Stay ready. Stay listening. Because the next door could change everything. And it just might be the one you never expected. Beloved chosen ones, there comes a moment in your journey with God when your strength is no longer enough, when your plans fall flat, when all your strategies, as sharp and well-intentioned as they may be, come to the end of their power. That's the moment many of us are tempted to give up. We look at the size of the wall, the complexity of the problem, and we think, this isn't moving, this won't change. But let me tell you something that will shake your doubt. That immovable thing you've been staring at isn't there to intimidate you. It's there to introduce you to the power of a God who doesn't need a hammer, who doesn't need explosives, who doesn't even need to explain himself. All he asks is for your faith. That's what brings Jericho down. Jericho wasn't taken by a battering ram. It wasn't conquered by clever military strategy. It fell because God said it would fall. And the people, even though they probably didn't understand it all, chose to walk in obedience anyway. Now think about that. Marching around a wall in silence for 6 days doesn't sound like victory. It sounds like waiting. It sounds like wasting time. But it wasn't. It was preparation. It was positioning. It was the people of God moving in rhythm with heaven. And on the 7th day, when the shout finally came, heaven moved. The wall didn't fall because of the sound of human voices. It fell because of the sound of surrender. That's the pattern God often follows. When you stop trying to push things in your own strength and instead align with his command, that's when strongholds collapse. Some of you have been facing situations in your life that feel like Jericho, fortified, intimidating, long-standing. Maybe it's a financial burden that's kept you up at night. Maybe it's a diagnosis that brought fear into your bones. Maybe it's a broken relationship that seems like it will never be restored. And you've been marching, haven't you? You've been praying. You've been fasting, but you haven't seen the wall fall yet. Let me encourage you right now, just because the wall hasn't moved doesn't mean God hasn't spoken. Sometimes faith is not about the wall crumbling instantly. It's about trusting the one who said it eventually will. It's not just about believing the wall can fall. It's about walking in obedience while it's still standing. Can you praise while the problem persists? Can you worship while your heart is still breaking? Can you show up to the march on day 5, day 6, even when nothing has changed? Because if you can, then you're doing more than walking. You're participating in a miracle. The enemy wants you to think it's over. He wants you to think the silence of those days is proof that God has left you. But let me tell you, God's silence is never absence. Sometimes his greatest works are unfolding behind the scenes while you're walking in faith out front. The story of Jericho is not just a story about walls. It's a story about trust. It's a story about what happens when people stop relying on their own logic and lean into the mystery of God's instructions. Nobody in that camp could have predicted that marching would be the means of victory, but God doesn't work according to what makes sense to us. He works according to what glorifies him. And when he brings down a wall in a way that only he could, no man can take credit, all the glory belongs to him. Now I want to talk to someone who has grown tired in the march. You've been circling that situation, believing, hoping, trying to hold on to your faith. And maybe the enemy's whispered in your ear, this is pointless. This isn't working. Just give up. But don't you dare stop short of the seventh day. Don't you stop before the shout, because the enemy knows what's coming. He sees the cracks forming before you do. He sees that your obedience is putting pressure on the foundation of that stronghold. And if he can't stop you, he'll try to distract you, discourage you, derail you with exhaustion. But you've come too far to quit now. See, the beautiful thing about God's process is that he often waits until your strength runs out, so you'll know it wasn't your doing that made the wall fall. It was his grace. It was his power. That way, when you walk into that promise, you walk in with gratitude, not pride. That's why some of the things you're asking for have been delayed, because God is waiting until your heart is ready to receive the blessing without turning it into a burden. He wants you to be the kind of person who doesn't just want a miracle, but is also prepared to steward it. So what does it look like to walk in faith like Israel did around Jericho? It looks like showing up when nothing's changed. It looks like silence when you want to speak doubt. It looks like worship when your world is shaking. And it looks like a shout on the seventh day, not a shout of anger, but a shout of trust. A shout that says, God, I believe you even when I don't see it. I trust you even when I don't understand it. I praise you even while the wall is still up. Let me ask you right now, what wall are you facing? What situation have you labeled as impossible? Because maybe God hasn't asked you to fix it. Maybe he's just asked you to walk around it. Maybe he's testing your endurance, your consistency, your willingness to trust him even when the outcome isn't clear. And maybe, just maybe, the wall you're walking around is about to fall. Not because of your strength, but because you finally surrendered to his. When Jericho fell, it wasn't just about that city. It was the beginning of a new season for God's people. It was the gateway to promise. The same is true for you. When God brings that wall down, it's not just about solving your problem, it's about setting you on a path to something greater. But don't miss this. The wall didn't fall until the people walked in obedience. Obedience, not outcome, was the key. That's what activates heaven. That's what positions you for the breakthrough. So don't wait until the wall crumbles to celebrate. Celebrate now. Praise now. Worship now. Because your Jericho is not the end of your story, it's the start of your victory. And if you've been faithful, if you've been walking and wondering and weary, hear me now. God is about to answer. The wall is shaking. The ground is rumbling. Keep walking. Keep trusting. Keep believing. Your obedience is not in vain. The wall is coming down. Now, we've seen how walls can fall when we walk in faith. We've seen how grace steps in when we stop striving in our own strength and surrender to God. But don't mistake that falling walls mean the walk gets easy. Just because the door opens doesn't mean the hallway won't have storms. You see, many people believe that if God opens a door, it should be smooth sailing. No resistance, no hardship. But that's not how God builds warriors. That's not how God refines character. That's not how he deepens faith. The truth is, open doors often lead directly into places that test you, stretch you, shake you. And it's in that shaking that God shapes you. The open door may lead to your assignment, but the fire in the hallway forges your anointing. God never promised the journey would be free from obstacles. What he promised is that you wouldn't face them alone. He said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. That means when the winds start howling, when the doubts come rushing in, when the path gets narrow and your strength feels like it's running out, that's when you lean in, not on your own understanding, but on the everlasting arms of the one who called you through that door in the first place. You have to understand something deep in your spirit. Faith that has never been tested is faith that cannot be trusted. You can't know how real your belief is until life squeezes it. Trials reveal whether your trust is in God or in comfort. And here's the beauty of it. God doesn't test you to break you. He tests you to build you. Every challenge you face after walking through the door is not a sign that God has left you. It's a sign that He's strengthening you for what's ahead. The opposition isn't proof of absence, it's confirmation of assignment. Look at Jesus. After He was baptized and the heavens opened, the Spirit led Him straight into the wilderness, not into applause, not into comfort, but into confrontation. He was hungry. He was tempted. He was challenged. Why? Because even Jesus had to walk through difficulty to step into destiny. If He, the Son of God, had to be proven in hardship, what makes us think we'll be exempt? The wilderness didn't disqualify Him, it prepared Him. And your hardship is doing the same for you. Don't curse the challenge. It's teaching your faith how to fight. When you face resistance, it doesn't mean the door was the wrong one. It might just mean it's the right one. Because the enemy doesn't fight what doesn't threaten him. He doesn't throw attacks at empty rooms. He throws them at rooms filled with purpose. So if the moment you walk through the door you start feeling pressure, that's not the time to retreat. That's the time to dig in, to trust God more deeply, to pray more fervently, to worship in the storm and speak truth in the dark. Some of you have walked through doors and you're wondering why it suddenly feels harder than it did before. You're questioning whether you misheard God, whether you made a mistake, whether you should have turned back. But let me tell you, difficulty is not a detour, it's part of the design. God is more interested in making you holy than making you comfortable. He's not just trying to open a door for you, He's trying to prepare you to stand in the room He's called you into. And that means learning to trust Him in the tension, to praise Him in the pressure, to keep walking when every part of you wants to quit. That's what mature faith looks like. Not skipping storms, but surviving them with your eyes still on Jesus. Real faith isn't measured by how loud you shout in church when everything's good, but how steady your heart beats when everything's shaking. It's in the tears you cry and still lift your hands. It's in the prayers you whisper through clenched teeth. It's in the moments when you feel forgotten but choose to believe you're still called. And make no mistake, those who endure the trial come out with a testimony. You're not just walking through fire, you're coming out as gold, refined, ready, battle tested. You'll stand one day and say, that trial didn't take me out, it tuned me in. That storm didn't break me, it built me. Because every time you choose faith over fear, every time you press forward instead of folding under pressure, heaven celebrates. God is cheering you on, not from a distance, but from right beside you. So no, the open door doesn't guarantee ease, but it does guarantee presence. And if God is with you in it, you have everything you need to finish the race. The challenge might look bigger than you, but it's not bigger than your God. The trial might be fierce, but grace is fiercer. And in every battle, you are not alone. You are equipped, you are surrounded, and you are moving forward, not because it's easy, but because He is faithful. This is what real faith looks like. Not escaping hardship, but enduring it with holy confidence. That the one who opened the door will also carry you through it. You're not walking blind, you're walking backed by heaven. Keep going. And when you've come through battles and storms, when you've watched walls fall like Jericho, not by your might, but by your obedience, you start to see a new kind of fire rise up in your spirit. Not the fire of ambition or ego, but the fire of faith, real faith. The kind of faith that doesn't flinch in the face of a closed door. The kind that doesn't bow when delay knocks. The kind that doesn't break when God's voice is silent. That's where we are now. You've seen God move. You've watched Him tear down the barriers. You've stepped through doors you once stood before in fear. And now something deeper begins to grow in you. Strong faith. Not borrowed faith, not childhood faith, not secondhand hope, but strong, tested, unshakable faith that screams, God is here, God is working, and I know it. You see, strong faith isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet confidence. Sometimes it's a whisper in the dark when everything says give up, but you say, no, I know my Redeemer lives. Sometimes it's walking when you're limping. Sometimes it's praising when you don't have answers. That kind of faith doesn't come cheap. It's forged in fire. And that fire is a sign. It is not just pain. It is not just pressure. It is not just coincidence. It is the evidence that God is moving in you and through you. When you start to walk with this kind of faith, it begins to light up the path not only for you, but for the people watching. Because people are watching, and what they see in you may be the closest thing to Jesus they've ever witnessed. Jesus said in Matthew 5, "You are the light of the world." A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. That light, that's not your charisma. That's not your resume. That's not your reputation. That light is your faith. Your faith is what glows in the dark. It's what speaks when your voice is gone. It's what rises when everything else has fallen. Your faith becomes the light that guides others. And you don't even have to shout about it. You don't need a spotlight. You don't need applause. Your endurance, your resilience, your trust, that becomes the sermon. People may never hear you preach, but they'll watch how you live. They'll see how you held on when you had every reason to let go. They'll remember that you kept praying when it looked like nothing was changing. And that's when they'll ask, "What's different about you?" And you'll say, "It's not me. It's who I walk with. It's who opened this door for me. It's the God who never left my side." That's what faith does. It testifies. It speaks volumes even when you say nothing. It becomes the echo of God's goodness through your life. Some of the strongest testimonies don't come from people who avoided pain. They come from people who endured it with grace. They come from people who kept believing when everything said stop. You might be walking through a season where it feels like God is distant, but listen to me. He is not. His silence is not his absence. His delay is not his denial. He is working, and every step of obedience you take, even when it doesn't make sense, is building something inside of you. He's cultivating faith, not the shallow kind, not the circumstantial kind, but the rooted kind. The kind that says, even if he doesn't, I'll still praise him. Even if I walk through fire, I will not bow. You may not see it now, but you are becoming someone's answered prayer. You are becoming someone's inspiration because you chose to believe others will believe, because you refused to give up. Someone else found courage, and all of this starts with your response to that open door. You could have walked away. You could have ignored the invitation, but you said yes. And your yes became a ripple. Your yes became a breakthrough for someone else. Your yes changed the atmosphere around you. That's what happens when strong faith takes root. It shifts not just your story, but the stories around you. There will be moments when you doubt. There will be moments when your legs shake and your voice trembles. But that doesn't mean your faith is failing. Faith doesn't mean the absence of fear. It means the presence of God despite the fear. And when you keep moving, when you keep trusting, when you keep praising in the valley, you're declaring to heaven and hell alike, I know who holds my future. I know who opened this door, and I know he's not finished yet. Let me tell you, the enemy doesn't attack what isn't valuable. If you've been facing pressure, that's because there's purpose on your life. There's calling on your name. There's destiny written over your steps. And your faith is the weapon, not your talent. Not your strength, not your intellect, your faith. And God has been growing it quietly, faithfully, through every tear, through every unanswered prayer, through every dark night. You didn't realize it, but you've been training in the shadows. And now that light in you, it's not just flickering, it's burning, and the world needs that light. Your family needs that light. Your workplace, your community, your generation. They need the kind of light that doesn't come from religion, but from relationship. Faith like this doesn't just survive storms, it learns to dance in the rain. Faith like this doesn't just endure the fire, it walks with the fourth man inside it. Faith like this doesn't just wait on the promise, it lives like the promise is already here. That's who you're becoming. A living, breathing example of God's power made perfect in weakness. Don't despise the pressure. Don't resent the struggle. It's all been a setup for stronger faith, a setup for a brighter light, a setup so that when others see you, they won't just see a survivor, they'll see a worshiper, a warrior, a witness. And now as you stand in this new place on the other side of doors once locked, you carry more than a testimony. You carry transformation. You carry a light that no darkness can overcome. You are the city on a hill. You are the lamp that cannot be hidden. And your faith, it's more than a personal strength. It is the sign that God is not only working around you, but within you. So keep walking, keep shining, keep believing. The door was just the beginning. The faith that follows is the fire that keeps it all burning. My dear friends, do you know sometimes when God opens a door, He doesn't hand you a flashlight? He doesn't give you a map. All you've got is the echo of His voice saying, walk. And if you're waiting for all the lights to turn green before you move, you'll be stuck at the intersection of comfort and delay. Because the next door in your life, the next season of your calling may require you to walk by faith, not by sight. You see, faith isn't just believing for what you see. It's trusting God for what you cannot see. And not just trusting Him when the blessings are flowing, but when the silence is heavy. When your prayers seem to bounce off the ceiling. When the path is unclear, the outcome uncertain, and the only thing you know for sure is this: He is with you. That's what walking with God is. It's not a sightseeing tour. It's a faith walk. It's stepping into the unknown simply because you know who sent you. And that kind of faith isn't built on logic. It's not based on evidence. It's born in surrender, in letting go of the need to know everything and holding on to the one who knows it all. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "If I find in myself desires which nothing in this world can satisfy, the only logical explanation is that I was made for another world." That means if you're feeling out of place, if your heart longs for more than this world can offer, you're not broken. You're just homesick for heaven. And faith, real faith, is living like that other world is already on its way. It's saying, I'll trust you, God, even if I don't have all the answers. It's waking up and saying, I'll walk forward, even if I'm trembling, even if my knees are shaking, even if every voice around me tells me to turn back. Because when you walk by faith, every step becomes a seed, and what you plant in trust, God waters with purpose. Now listen, this kind of faith doesn't eliminate fear. It overcomes it. This kind of faith doesn't wait for perfect peace. It walks through the storm and declares peace over it. You think Peter had perfect faith when he stepped out of the boat? No, he just had enough faith to take one step, and that one step changed everything. Some of you are waiting for the big picture before you obey. But sometimes God only gives you one piece at a time, and He's not trying to confuse you. He's trying to train you to trust Him more than you trust your understanding. That's why Proverbs 3:5 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, because your understanding will say, it doesn't make sense. But faith says, it doesn't have to, as long as it's God. You don't need all the facts when you have faith. You don't need to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. That's the test. That's where spiritual maturity is formed. Not in knowing what's next, but in knowing who is leading you there. And the longer you walk with God, the more you begin to realize that it's not about arriving at a destination. It's about becoming someone along the way. God is not in a rush. He's not trying to impress you with speed. He's shaping you with steps. Every delay, every detour, every dry season, it's all part of your development. Because walking with God doesn't always feel productive, but it's always transformative. Faith in the unseen is not reckless. It's revolutionary. Because it's not just a belief, it's an allegiance, a devotion, a holy defiance against doubt. And in a world that demands proof, your life becomes the proof, your peace becomes the evidence, your joy in the middle of the mess becomes the testimony. So I dare you walk forward, even if the road looks empty, even if the future is foggy, because you're not walking alone. He said he would never leave you nor forsake you. That means even when it feels like you're wandering, you're still walking in his will. And if you ever doubt it, if fear starts whispering, what if it doesn't work out? You just look back. Look at the doors he's already opened. Look at the Red Seas. He's already split. Look at the Jericho walls he's already brought down. Because if he was faithful before, he will be faithful again. This walk may not look flashy. It may not always be applauded, but it will be worth it. Because every step you take in faith is a declaration, I believe you, God. Even if I don't see it yet, I believe it's coming. Even if I don't understand it yet, I believe you're good. And even if this road is hard, I believe it's holy. So keep walking, keep trusting, and don't be afraid of the unknown. Because to walk with God is to live for the unseen. And what is unseen now will one day be revealed in glory. Now listen, you made the decision. You stepped through the door. You obeyed when it didn't make sense. You walked by faith, not by sight. But now you find yourself standing in the unfamiliar. You followed God's voice, but what you see around you doesn't match what you hoped for. And this is where so many give up, right after the obedience, right at the edge of breakthrough, because the provision didn't look the way they expected. But I want to tell you something tonight. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean God's not sending it. Just because it doesn't show up how you imagine doesn't mean his hand isn't moving. When God calls you through a door, he doesn't just throw you in and walk away. No, my friend, he walks with you. And not only that, he provides for you, not always ahead of time, not always in the package you were hoping for, but right on time, right in the moment of your need. Just like he did for the Israelites in the wilderness. Remember that. They walked through a door too, out of Egypt, out of bondage, out of the only life they had ever known. And what was waiting for them on the other side? Freedom, yes, but also wilderness, uncertainty, hunger, fear. They weren't in the promised land yet. They were in transition, but even there, even in that dry and barren land, God fed them every single day. Manna from heaven, water from rocks, quail. When they complained, he gave them just enough, not for the week, not for the month, but for the day. And he's still that kind of God. God's provision doesn't always come in bulk. Sometimes it comes in whispers, in people who show up just when you need them. In doors that open just wide enough for your next step, in strength you didn't think you had, in peace that doesn't make sense, in jobs you weren't even qualified for, in friends who speak the right word at the right time. That's divine provision, and it doesn't always look like a miracle from the sky. Sometimes it looks like quiet mercy in the dark. You see, if God showed you everything up front, if he gave you the whole plan before you stepped out, then you wouldn't need faith. You'd rely on sight. And that's not how he operates. The Bible says, the righteous shall live by faith. And faith means stepping into the unknown, trusting that your Father sees the road even when you don't. And let me tell you, his provision is not just about survival. It's about shaping you. When you don't have everything you want, you learn to value what you have. When the door opens and the support doesn't come all at once, you lean harder into his presence. And in that leaning, your relationship with God deepens. You start to see his fingerprints on things you once overlooked. You begin to trust not in the provision, but in the provider. Because the real miracle is not that the bills got paid. It's not that the healing came. The real miracle is that you stayed faithful when it didn't, that you kept walking when it didn't add up, that you worshiped while you waited, that you held on, when the manna didn't fall on time. That's the kind of faith that moves heaven. And listen, there will be days you don't feel provided for. Days when the cupboards feel empty, when the emotions run dry, when your strength is barely holding on. But I want to remind you tonight, just because the table looks empty doesn't mean the feast isn't coming. Just because the storm hasn't stopped doesn't mean God isn't already speaking. Peace be still. The Lord said he would never leave you. He said he would never forsake you. He said he would supply all your needs according to his riches in glory. He said he is your shepherd, you shall not want. So if you're walking through a new door today and it feels like the support system has disappeared, don't you be afraid. Don't you doubt. That's the moment your faith starts to stretch. That's the moment heaven starts to pour out the kind of provision that money can't buy. God isn't building a comfort zone. He's building your character, and provision is part of the process. He may not give you more than you need, but he will always give you enough. He may not fill your hands in advance, but he will place just enough in your path for the journey ahead. So stand firm, walk forward, lift your eyes to the hills. Your help comes from the Lord. Don't look for signs. Don't wait for all the pieces. You're not walking alone. You are walking with the God who fed his people in the desert, the God who multiplied loaves and fish, the God who brought water from a rock and bread from the sky, the same God who makes a way where there is no way. He is walking with you now. And let me end by saying this. Sometimes God doesn't provide until your foot hits the water. Like the priests carrying the ark before the Jordan parted, nothing happened until they stepped in. That's how faith works. You go first, then he provides, you obey. Then he moves, you believe. Then he reveals. So don't wait for the proof. Walk in the promise. Don't wait for the resources. Move with the word. And when you do, you will discover what the Israelites did. Your God is faithful, even in the wilderness, even in the silence, even when the door leads you through difficulty. He is Jehovah Jireh, the God who provides, and he's providing for you right now, even when you don't see it, even when you don't feel it, even when you can't trace his hand, you can still trust his heart. Keep walking, keep trusting. The door may be new, the road may be rough, but the provider is already there, waiting, working, and making a way for you. Beloved chosen ones, you've made the decision to walk through the door God opened. You're not just standing in front of it anymore. You're not analyzing it from the outside. You're not questioning whether it's for you. No, you stepped through it. And maybe now you're standing in a place where you expected breakthrough, but instead all you see is silence. You were hoping for immediate results, expecting instant confirmation, but what you got instead was a quiet stillness, a pause, a waiting season. Let me tell you something tonight, waiting is not wasted. Waiting is where God does his most profound work. Waiting is not a delay in your destiny. It is a tool in the hand of a master forming you for what's ahead. When God seems quiet, it's easy to assume he has forgotten. When the promises don't manifest as fast as we want, it's tempting to believe he changed his mind. But God's silence is never absence. His delay is never denial. Sometimes the silence is strategic. Sometimes the delay is divine. You see, we think waiting means nothing is happening, but in God's kingdom, the waiting room is also the training room. While you're waiting, he's working. While you're still, he's shaping. While you're hoping, he's building. And sometimes he holds back what you're praying for, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Ask any mature believer and they'll tell you it's in the waiting that God refined their character. It's in the waiting they discovered what faith really means. It's in the waiting that they learned. Worship wasn't about feelings, but surrender. So if you're in a season where the promise feels far and the prayers feel unanswered, I want to remind you this isn't the end of your story. This is the part where God grows your roots deep. This is the part where He strengthens your foundation. This is the part where He strips away your dependence on outcomes so your soul can rest in His presence alone. You see, there's something holy about waiting. The world hates it. The world says, hurry up, make it happen. If it doesn't show up now, it's not worth waiting for. But God's economy is different. He often works in slow, deliberate ways, not because He's inefficient, but because He's wise. The slower the build, the stronger the structure. The longer the preparation, the greater the purpose. When God takes time, it's because what He's preparing you for is weighty. It carries eternal value. And if He gave it to you too soon, it would crush you. So in His mercy, He waits. Do you remember Israel in the wilderness? 40 years. Not because God couldn't deliver faster, but because the people needed preparation. They needed to unlearn Egypt before they could possess the promised land. And sometimes we're the same. God brings us out of the old, but we're still carrying the mindset, the habits, the fears from the past. So He says, I'm not just going to give you a new destination, I'm going to make you a new creation. But that takes time. And in the wilderness, He trains our ears to hear His voice. In the wilderness, He shows us that manna may not be fancy, but it is faithful. In the wilderness, we learn to follow the cloud by day and the fire by night, to trust His leading even when it doesn't make sense. So don't despise the waiting. Don't curse the silence. Don't rush the preparation, because what God is doing in you is bigger than what you can see. Sometimes the answer to your prayer is not a blessing, it's a becoming. God isn't just trying to give you something, He's trying to make you into someone. And who you become in the waiting will determine what you can carry when the door opens wider. He is forging endurance in you. He is teaching you to hold on when it's hard. He is growing your capacity to love Him, not just for what He gives, but for who He is. This kind of waiting is worship. It's trust in its purest form. It says, God, I don't see the way, but I trust You are the way. It says, God, I don't feel the breakthrough, but I believe You are the breaker. It says, even if it takes longer than I thought, I will not move until You say move. That's faith. That's maturity. That's what turns shallow belief into unshakable conviction. And some of you tonight, you're not stuck, you're stationed. God has you in a holding pattern, not to punish you, but to protect you until the timing is right. Because timing matters to God. He's not just working on your blessing, He's working on the atmosphere around it. He's preparing the people, the place, and the provision to meet you at the right moment. If He opened the door too soon, you'd miss the connections He has aligned. If He gave you the opportunity before you were refined, pride could ruin it. But in the waiting, He removes the ego, the fear, the idols, and replaces them with trust, humility, and strength. So when you do walk into what He's prepared, you walk in ready, not just externally, but internally. And let me speak directly to your soul tonight. You may be tempted to compare your journey to someone else's timeline. You may be wondering why others are moving ahead while you're still waiting. But remember, this comparison is the enemy of contentment. God is not running your race based on their clock. He's running it based on your calling. And your calling is sacred, unique. So don't trade your patience for someone else's pace. You don't know what God is saving you from. You don't know what He's still setting up. Trust that He's God enough to manage the details and good enough to get it right. So if today you find yourself in a season of pause, don't panic. Don't pull back. Don't let discouragement rob you of perspective. Instead, lean in. Listen deeply. Pray without ceasing. Worship like you already have what you ask for. Because waiting is not wasting. It is worship in its rawest form. It is saying, God, You are enough for me even when I don't have the answer yet. And let me tell you, those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They will rise up with wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. That's not just a poetic promise, it's a divine principle. The waiting doesn't break you. It builds you. And when the time comes, when the trumpet sounds, when the door swings open, you won't just be ready to walk through it. You'll be ready to carry the weight of the promise with grace, with gratitude, and with the kind of glory that only comes from time spent in the presence of God. So tonight, stand firm in the pause, rest in the process, and know this: God's delay is not his denial. The waiting is working. And you, my friend, are being prepared for something far greater than you imagined. Keep trusting, keep worshiping, keep waiting. Well, and to do that, now let us talk about something often overlooked, something that doesn't make headlines, that doesn't draw applause, but is one of the most powerful marks of a mature believer: patience. In this world of instant everything, instant food, instant updates, instant gratification, we've forgotten how to wait. We want doors to swing open the moment we knock. But God works differently. He doesn't always move at the speed of our expectation. He moves at the speed of our transformation. You see, waiting isn't wasted. Patience isn't punishment. Patience is a process. Patience is heaven's classroom, where God prepares you for what he has already prepared for you. If you're praying, God, open this door, and it hasn't opened yet, maybe it's because God isn't just working on the door, he's working on you. Because an unopened door doesn't mean God has forgotten. It means he's forming. He's shaping your character, deepening your roots, enlarging your capacity. The door is not the goal, your development is. Think about it. No good parent hands their teenager the keys to the car without training, without maturity, without responsibility. It's not because they don't love the child, it's because they do. It's not rejection, it's protection. The delay is for development. The door will open when the one knocking is ready to walk through it without it destroying them. And that's how your heavenly Father sees you. He won't give you a breakthrough that will break you. He's not interested in fast. He's invested in faithful. Sometimes we think the silence means God isn't listening, but silence doesn't mean absence. Silence is sacred. That's when you lean in trust deeper, listen more closely. That's when your faith stretches. That's when your roots go deep. Because anyone can praise when the doors are swinging wide. But can you worship in the hallway? Can you praise him in the pause? That's mature faith. That's what patience builds. And let me tell you something, patience is not weakness. Patience is strength under control. Patience says, I trust God's timing more than my timeline. Paciencia declares, even if he delays, he's still dependable. Real faith doesn't demand a deadline. Real faith waits. Abraham waited 25 years for a promised son. Joseph waited in prison for years before stepping into his calling. David was anointed king, but waited over a decade before wearing the crown. Waiting is woven into the process of greatness. God is not slow. As we understand slowness, he is thorough. He is wise. He knows that some blessings, if given too soon, can become burdens. He knows that a door opened at the wrong time can lead to destruction rather than destiny. So if he has you waiting, it's not because he's holding out, it's because he's holding you together. The delay is not a denial, it is divine preparation. He's aligning people's circumstances and, most importantly, your spirit. So when you step into that door, you step in whole. You might not see what's shifting behind the scenes, but trust me, God is moving. Every tear you've cried in private, every prayer you've whispered in the dark, every act of obedience when no one was watching, it's not in vain. He sees it all, and he's using it all. Patience refines your focus. It teaches you what really matters. It trains your spirit to depend not on feelings, but on truth, on promise, on him. And while you wait, don't sit idle. Prepare. Keep your hands faithful and your heart open. Keep building, keep praying, keep serving. Don't just wait for the door to open. Get ready to walk through it. Because when God moves, He often moves suddenly, and you don't want to be caught unprepared for the moment you've been praying for. That's what patience does. It prepares you for divine acceleration. Friend, if you're in a waiting season, don't waste it complaining. Use it to grow. Use it to mature. Let it mold you into someone who doesn't just want the blessing, but is ready to carry it with humility and grace. Let patience complete its work in you. The fruit of patience is not just in the reward, it's in the transformation that takes place while you wait. God knows when you're ready. He knows what He's deposited in you. And He knows the exact moment when the weight of His promise won't crush you but crown you. So don't lose heart. Don't tap out in the hallway. Don't abandon the process just because it's longer than you expected. His timing is not just right, it's righteous. You were never meant to force the door open. You were meant to trust the one who holds the key. And when that door opens, it'll make sense why it took so long. You'll see the wisdom in the wait. You'll understand that the delay was mercy, that it built muscles in your soul, resilience in your faith, and vision in your purpose. So hold on, beloved. Not with clenched fists, but with open hands. Wait not with anxiety, but with anticipation. Know this, every second of waiting in God's will is safer than running ahead in your own. Stay in step with the Spirit. Walk at the pace of grace. And when He opens that door, you'll walk through not just with excitement, but with authority. Because the truth is this, God is more interested in building you than in blessing you. He's preparing your character to match your calling. He's fortifying your soul to sustain the success. And if it feels like you've been in a holding pattern, maybe that's because He's about to take you to new heights. Planes don't take off until everything is aligned. So don't despise the preparation. Don't rush the runway. Your clearance for takeoff is coming. That's the kind of trust that marks a mature believer. That's the kind of patience that shows you're not in this for the blessing alone, you're in it for the builder. The one who opens doors no man can shut, and who shuts doors no man can open. Let Him build you while you wait. Because when the moment comes, and it will, you won't just walk through that door. You'll rise through it. My dear friends, but I need to make this clear to you, just because you don't see anything happening doesn't mean nothing is happening. Just because there's silence doesn't mean there's absence. Just because the answer hasn't shown up yet doesn't mean God didn't hear you. That silence, that waiting, that delay, it's not abandonment, it's a battlefield, a real one. Not the kind you see with tanks or bullets, but a spiritual war invisible to our eyes, but very, very real. Now let me bring you into something deeper, something many believers overlook. There are times when your prayers are not delayed because of your lack of faith, not because you did something wrong, but because of what's happening in the unseen. The delay isn't a denial. It's a sign you've stirred something in the heavenlies. In the book of Daniel chapter 10, Daniel had been praying and fasting for 21 days. Nothing was happening, not a sign, not a whisper. But when the angel finally arrived, he said something powerful. From the first day you set your heart to understand and to humble yourself before your God, your words were heard. From the first day, not the 21st, not after he earned it, not after he proved his devotion. From the moment he cried out, God heard him. But the angel didn't show up for 3 weeks because he was being resisted by a dark principality. A demonic force had tried to stop the answer from coming. Let that settle in for a moment. Because what if the thing you've been waiting on, that healing, that breakthrough, that restoration, what if it's already been dispatched? What if the answer has already left heaven, but it's being resisted in a realm you can't see? See, y'all are getting weary, not because God hasn't spoken, but because hell is trying to intercept what God has already sent. That's why you can't stop praying. That's why you can't give up. That's why giving into discouragement is exactly what the enemy wants. Because your persistence in prayer is what breaks the blockade. Spiritual warfare is not a metaphor. It's not a fairy tale for Sunday school. It is real. And the battlefield is not out there somewhere. It's over your mind, your peace, your hope, your destiny. When you pray, you send up a signal and heaven moves. But so does hell. You stir the opposition because you've set your heart on something holy. Some of you are thinking, well, Denzel, if God is all powerful, why even let a delay happen? Why allow the enemy to interfere at all? And I get that. But understand this. God allows delays not to hurt you, but to grow you. He allows resistance to build resilience. He lets you contend not because he's playing games, but because he's training your faith to endure beyond the surface. If Daniel had stopped praying on day 10, day 15, or day 20, he wouldn't have seen the answer. But he stayed. He endured, had persisted, and the answer arrived because heaven honors perseverance. Some of you have been praying for something for years, and the enemy wants to whisper, see, God forgot you. He's not listening. You're wasting your time. But I came here to tell you that's a lie straight from hell. God heard you the first time. He saw your tears, have felt your atch. He caught your whisper in the dark. And even though you don't see the answer yet, it's in transit. It's just that there's a war happening over your blessing and your prayers. They're not passive. They are weapons. Every word, every cry, every groan, it weakens the resistance. It pierces through darkness. Don't you dare let delay make you doubt your identity. Don't you dare let the silence make you question your value. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. You are not ignored. You are engaged in a divine conflict, and the fact that it's taking long is proof that what's coming is heavy with glory. Now listen, sometimes when we pray and don't receive right away, we think it's about us. Maybe I didn't use the right words. Maybe I didn't fast long enough. Maybe I didn't pray hard enough. But that's not how grace works. The delay is not performance-based. It's warfare-based. The enemy is threatened by what's coming, and that's why he fights it so hard. Let me say this to every discouraged heart. Don't stop on day 20 when your answer is coming on day 21. Don't stop on year 6 when year 7 is your breakthrough. Don't stop after the 9th lap when the wall is about to fall on the 7th day. The battle is often the fiercest right before the breakthrough. That's not coincidence, that's confirmation. So what do you do in the delay? You worship. You stand. You believe. You fight not with fists, but with faith. You open your mouth and you declare, God heard me. You say, even though I don't see it, I trust he's working. Because faith is not proven when everything looks clear. Faith is proven in the fog, in the waiting, in the silence. I know it hurts. I know waiting feels like wandering. But I came here to remind you, you are not waiting alone. Angels are fighting for you. God is watching over you. And the answer is on the way. And don't you miss this, sometimes the delay reveals the depth of your desire. If God gave you everything you prayed for instantly, you'd never know how real your hunger is. But waiting, it exposes the hunger, it deepens your longing. And that longing becomes the place where intimacy is born. You get to know God not just as a giver, but as a sustainer. So hold on, keep praying, keep believing, keep showing up in the secret place. Because heaven heard you from the very first day. And what's been held up in the heavens will break through in time. The enemy can delay it, but he can't deny it. Not if you don't give up. Not if you stand. Not if you fight the good fight of faith. This is not just about getting what you ask for. It's about becoming the kind of person who can carry what's coming. It's not just about the gift. It's about the growth. So keep praying, child of God. The answer is coming. Don't let the war convince you that you were never heard. You were heard, and you are still being helped. Heaven is moving. Don't stop. As we come to the final chapter of this journey, I want to invite you into a sacred space, a moment where all the noise quiets and only the voice of your soul remains. Because this message has not just been about patience, It has not only been about open doors or divine timing. No, it's been about what God is doing in you in the waiting. And now as we close, we do not end with answers, we end with surrender. This is where the message becomes a movement. This is where the lesson becomes a lifestyle. This is where we offer up our hearts, not just our requests, to the one who sees it all. So wherever you are, whether you're in a room full of people or sitting alone in your car, I invite you to pause. I invite you to breathe. I invite you to pray with me. Lord, I come before you right now, not because I have it all figured out, not because I'm strong or confident in myself, but because I know that without you, I'm lost. I come before you as someone who's been walking through a season that feels long, heavy, and silent. I've been praying, waiting, trusting, and sometimes doubting. I've tried to hold on to hope, but there have been moments when I've wondered if you were still listening, if you were still near, if you were still working behind the scenes. But here I am, Lord, still showing up, still believing, even if my belief is shaky, even if my faith is tired, even if I've asked you the same question over and over, God, when today I lay it all down again. My questions, my timeline, my plans, my expectations, I surrender them at your feet. I've tried to predict how things should unfold. I've tried to hold you to a schedule that I created. I've grown weary from waiting for things to make sense, for doors to open, for healing to come, for answers to arrive. But the truth is, you don't work on my clock. You don't move based on my pressure. And honestly, that's a good thing, because you're wiser than me. You're higher than me. You see what I cannot. So God, help me to wait well. Teach me how to sit in the tension of not yet without giving in to bitterness. Help me worship while I wait. Not because everything looks good right now, but because you are still good even when things don't look like it. Show me how to choose gratitude in the middle of uncertainty. To say thank you even when I'm still praying for what hasn't arrived. Lord, give me strength, not just to stand, but to serve during the wait. Don't let me pause my purpose just because my prayers haven't been answered yet. Let me be someone who continues to love others, who continues to encourage, who continues to give, even when I feel empty myself. I know that waiting doesn't mean I'm stuck. It means you're preparing something either in me or for me. Remind me that delays are not denials, that silence is not absence. That hiddenness does not mean forgotten. You've been faithful before, and you will be faithful again. Help me remember every miracle you've done in my life. Every time you came through when I thought it was over. Every time you made a way when I had none. Let those memories fuel my faith for what's ahead. God, I need your peace. That deep peace that doesn't depend on what I see, but on who you are. I need that kind of peace that quiets the noise around me and steadies the storm inside me. I need your spirit to speak louder than my anxiety, louder than the enemy's lies, louder than my doubts. When I feel overwhelmed, be my calm. When I feel afraid, be my confidence. And Lord, in this waiting season, grow me. Don't let this time be wasted. Let it produce something beautiful in me. Grow my patience, strengthen my trust. Purify my motives, refine my heart, stretch my capacity to believe for more. Teach me not to worship the outcome, but to worship you no matter what happens. I don't just want the promise, I want to be shaped for it. If I've been chasing something that wasn't from you, show me. If I've been trying to open a door you already closed, stop me. If I've been asking for something that's not in line with your will, redirect me. I want what you want for me, even if it's different than what I had in mind. I trust that your way is better. I trust that your plan is good. I trust that you know me better than I know myself. Lord, I bring you my tired heart. You see it all. The parts I don't show anyone. The disappointments I keep quiet. The frustration I bury. You see the tears I cried behind closed doors. The prayers I whispered in the middle of the night, the dreams I dared not say out loud. You know how hard it's been, and yet you've held me through it all. Thank you for never giving up on me, for never walking away, for staying near when I felt far, for being patient with me when I've been impatient with you, for comforting me in my weakest moments, for loving me even when I questioned you. Right now I open my heart to you again, fully, completely, without holding back. I invite you into my waiting, into my wandering, into my wondering. Take this season and use it for something that brings you glory. Let this season not just pass, but let it shape me into the person you're calling me to become. And God, for the person reading or praying this who feels like they're at the end of their rope, wrap them in your love right now. Let them feel your arms around them. Let them know that they are not alone, not abandoned, not unseen. Speak life into their situation. Speak hope into their despair. Let them know that even in the silence, you are still speaking. Even in the stillness, you are still moving. Help us wait with faith. Not a passive, bored kind of waiting, but an active, expectant kind of faith that believes something is happening even if we can't see it yet. Like a seed under the soil, like a baby in the womb, like the sun rising before it breaks the horizon. Remind us that you do some of your best work in the dark. Lord, give us spiritual eyes to see what you're doing, spiritual ears to hear your whispers, a heart that beats in rhythm with yours. Make us sensitive to your presence even when it doesn't look like how we imagined. And when the breakthrough comes, when the answer arrives, when the promise is fulfilled, help us never forget this season. Help us remember how you carried us, how you taught us, how you revealed yourself in deeper ways. Let us not just rejoice in the outcome, but in the journey. You walked with us through. Thank you, Lord, for being the kind of God who doesn't waste anything, who turns pain into purpose, waiting into wisdom, silence into sacred space. Thank you for being close to the brokenhearted. Thank you for bending down to listen when we call. Thank you for being a father who is never late, even if you're rarely early. I choose to trust you today, even when I don't understand, even when it hurts, even when nothing makes sense. I choose to believe that you are working all things together for my good. I choose to believe that you are writing a better story than the one I could write for myself. So here's my heart, God, all of it, the hopeful parts and the hurting parts, the bold faith and the quiet fear. I give it to you. Take it, hold it, heal it, and lead it. Wherever you lead me, I'll follow. However long it takes, I'll wait. As long as you're with me, I have everything I need. In the mighty, faithful, never-failing name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. Beloved chosen ones, sometimes the hardest part of walking by faith is walking when we can't see the road, when the answers haven't come, when the doors remain shut, when we pray we wait, and nothing seems to move. And after all the praying, after all the fasting, after all the believing, we're still in the hallway, still in between where we were and where we're going. But listen closely now, because this truth right here will steady your soul. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean God isn't working. His delay is not his denial. You see, the last thing we spoke about was the importance of surrendering your heart in the waiting season. Laying down your desires, your timeline, your expectations, bringing them humbly before the Lord, and trusting that he knows what to do with what you place in his hands. And now we move from surrender to assurance, from waiting to anchoring, because while you wait, child of God, you are not forgotten. While you wait, heaven is not silent. God is still moving behind the curtain, behind the scenes, behind your understanding. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean nothing's happening. Let's go to the Word. In the book of John, Jesus said, "My Father is always at his work, not sometimes, not just on Sundays, not only when things are going right, nor always." That means at midnight when you're crying alone. That means in traffic. When you're frustrated, that means in the hospital room, in the divorce courtroom, in the unemployment line. God is always at his work. And if he's always working, then you can always trust that what you don't see is still part of his plan. Let me tell you something. Faith isn't just believing when the door opens. Faith is believing when it's still locked, bolted, and nobody's answering on the other side. Faith is choosing to knock again tomorrow. Faith is saying, I don't need to see the miracle to know it's on the way. You don't need confirmation from man when you've got a promise from God. You don't need evidence in your bank account, your body, or your circumstances to believe that God is shifting things in your favor. There is a great deception the enemy uses in delay. He whispers, if God really heard you, it would have happened by now. He taunts, if God was really good, he wouldn't make you wait. But let me remind you, Jesus waited 30 years before his public ministry began. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness. David was anointed king but returned to the pasture. Delay is not abandonment. Delay is not neglect. Delay is preparation. Delay is protection. Delay is the sacred pause where God arranges what you can't carry yet so you'll be ready when it comes. If God gave it to you too soon, it would crush you. If he opened the door before you were ready, the weight on the other side would break you. That relationship, that opportunity, that promotion, it looks good, but it might not be good for you right now. So trust that when the door remains closed, it is mercy, not punishment. Love, not rejection. There are some blessings so big, so deep, so weighty, they require heavenly timing. And sometimes it's not about the door opening. It's about who you become while waiting in front of it. See, you thought you were waiting for the blessing, but the blessing was waiting on you to mature, to grow, to strengthen your character, to align your motives, to silence your pride. You thought the delay was the problem. But what if it's the process God is using to make you into someone who can carry the dream and not collapse under it? Don't confuse silence with absence. God is not a man that he should lie. If he spoke it, he will bring it to pass. The issue is not whether God is working. The issue is whether we're willing to keep believing when we see no evidence. Hebrews 11 says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Not seen. Meaning real faith kicks in when your eyes fail. Real faith stands up when feelings sit down. I want to encourage someone right now. You've been praying, you've been fasting, you've been faithful and you're tired. You've been knocking and nothing's moving. You're starting to wonder if you missed it. You're starting to wonder if God changed his mind. You're starting to think maybe the door isn't for you. But listen to me. The door is still yours. The calling is still yours. The promise is still alive. The reason it hasn't opened yet is not because God has forgotten, but because he is orchestrating every detail to align perfectly for your good and his glory. And when he opens it, it won't be a crack. It won't be barely. It won't be partial. It will be a floodgate, an overflow, more than you can ask, think, or imagine. When that moment comes, you won't have to fight for it. You won't have to beg for it. You won't have to strive or compete or compare. It'll be yours because it was written with your name on it before the foundation of the world. That's why you must hold the line. Don't abandon your post. Don't stop knocking. Don't stop believing. Don't let the delay steal your destiny. You may not see it yet, but God is moving mountains behind your back. He's opening doors in rooms you haven't even stepped into. He's aligning people, resources, and moments to collide in perfect timing. Keep walking. Keep trusting. Keep declaring, my God is faithful. Let your faith outlast the silence. Let your hope endure the shadows. Let your praise go before the answer. Because when it finally breaks through, when the door opens, when the prayer is answered, when the healing comes, when the provision arrives, it won't just bless you, it will elevate everyone around you. That's the kind of God you serve. A God of more than enough, a God of suddenlies, a God of I was working while you were sleeping. So I dare you right here, right now, to affirm your faith. Speak it even if your voice trembles. Declare it even if the answer hasn't come. Say it out loud, even if your heart is breaking, I still believe. God is still working. My miracle is still in motion. My door is still coming. Say it again until your fear gets tired of hearing it. Say it until doubt packs its bags and leaves. Say it until heaven recognizes your voice and angels are dispatched in response. Because faith moves heaven. It shakes walls. It confuses the enemy, and it draws God near. The word says he inhabits the praises of his people. So lift your voice and let praise be your declaration that you trust the God behind the scenes. He's not finished. He's not silent. He's not ignoring you. He's working in your waiting, in your questions, in your pain. And when the time is right, not a second too soon or too late, he will make it happen. That's the power of faith that holds on. That's the power of believing behind the curtain. That's the power of knowing who your God is, even when you can't trace his hand. So tonight, as we close this moment together, don't walk away with your head down. Walk away with your head high and your faith stronger. The delay is not the end of the story. It's just a chapter in the testimony. God is still writing. The door is still being carved. And when it swings open, you'll know why it took so long. Hold on. The story isn't over. The door is on its way. Now, before we close today's message, let me take a moment to thank you from the bottom of my heart for walking this journey with me. If this message has inspired you, touched your heart, or brought you closer to the voice of God, we humbly invite you to support this channel. Your encouragement, your prayers, your kind words, and your generosity allow us to continue spreading the word of God and sharing his peace with hearts around the world, even those who may not have the strength to ask for it themselves. Your support is a blessing beyond what words can express. Take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who may need a spark of encouragement, a reminder of hope, or a glimpse of divine wisdom. Your involvement helps this community grow and gives us the opportunity to reach more lives with the light and truth of God's love. We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Let us know which part of today's message spoke to you the most. May the Lord surround you with his grace, strengthen you for the road ahead, and bless every step you take.